Okay, good evening. What I've done here is in Pro 2012 is I'm going to hit Control Tab, and that's what this dormer looks like on the second floor. It's kind of a story and a half kind of a situation. There's the outside. And I thought I'd go through a few things about, now I put this in here with the dormer tool, and that's under Build, Roof. I think I used Auto Dormer in this case, but because it was a story and a half, and that's what gives most people the trouble. You can see I pulled the wall back here. Let me turn the reference display on. You can see there's the first floor wall. Got a gable, and the roofs are 12-12. I just used default settings for the dormer and plunked it in there and resized it and fixed the windows up. So it doesn't just go in there like this. I actually worked on this a little bit before I started recording. But I pulled this back so that the auto floating dormer would come in there, and then we'd have a little bit sticking out here because that was mentioned in some of the posts. And so you get this sort of a thing here. Those walls that stick out in the plan view, that's the little segments here. And this is an auto dormer. I'm going to explode it, take it apart, and we'll look at the parts and so forth and see what happens as I take it apart. Also, there is a post about display options and so forth. Now, the display options you're used to are right over here while in plan view. And just to demonstrate this, how these are different, I'm going to turn off walls normal. Everything that you can see, and some things you can't see in plan view, are here. See, now there's no walls normal. Now this wall's here because it's not on that layer called walls normal. I don't care what this error message is about. It's just telling me I'm opening an automatically generated wall. Go over to the General tab. You can tell it's auto-generated because it's marked attic wall, no locate, no room define. No room define, you can't use that kind of wall to close a space for a room. No locate, dimensions, automatic dimensions and manual dimensions will ignore this object. An attic wall gives it the special characteristics of an attic wall. In a camera view, now let's go to the camera view. Now this is and you can see walls are showing in this view. That's because walls normal is not off in this layer set. So while in this camera view, see, walls normal is on. You would think it's the same tool, but it's not, because you're in a camera view. You're in a completely different mode of the program. See, walls normal is on. And there's that attic wall there. That's an attic wall. This is an attic wall. Let me hit the tab key. We'll open that wall up, and you'll see that on its general tab that it's not marked attic wall, no locate, and it defines the room. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a floor in here. If I was to check no room define, and see there's no room because this wall won't cooperate in creating a closed space. And we'll open that back up and just take that little. That's also mystifying some new users as to why they can't draw a closed room, because this gets checked for one reason, or they try to use an automatically generated attic wall as part of their room, and it doesn't work. Okay. And there's one other set that I mentioned, and it's under Tools, Reference Floors. Now it's grayed out here. You can't use this in a camera view. Let me close this camera view here. See, now the walls are still missing because I'm operating in plan view, and walls normal is still unchecked. So I'll check that back. Okay. So now we have a room dialog box, including the dormer. Excuse me. So that should straighten out. Oh yeah, I was going to go over here to Tools, Reference Floors, Reference Display. And you can see all the colors of the layers in this layer display options for reference floors. All the layers are red. That's just by default. There's nothing significant about that, except that's the color that they chose when they wrote the software. And if we don't see walls normal, I'll uncheck that. You'll see that walls normal is still there. We'll go down to the first floor and click reference floors over here. And I can't see the wall because I turned them off. I can see some other things which are turned on. We'll go over here to reference floors, reference display options. and we'll turn those walls back on. See, I can see railings in a reference, walls invisible. Anything that's checked over here, I can see in the reference display, and the things that aren't unchecked, I can't see. Now the walls are back. So you get the idea. Okay, enough on reference displays and display options and so forth, but it mystifies a lot of new users, and I thought I'd cover a little bit of it. Now let's get to the hard part. I'm going to take this dormer here and select it. And over here in the edit toolbar, let me pull it off so you can see that it's actually says, that's the edit toolbar. That's the one that appears when you select something, and when you deselect something, it disappears. And one of the commands in there is explode dormer, so we're going to explode that. What that does is it transforms it from a unified object into its constituent parts. So now I can select its, roof planes, its walls, and like I said in my prior post, you can see that the walls here, there's one here and one here. It looks like the same wall, but it's not, and that's on both sides. And then, so there's the 5 walls. Let's take a look at this wall and open up its dialog box. Go to the roof tab and see a roof cuts wall at bottom. Same thing over here. Roof cuts wall at bottom. And then in this one, you go to the roof tab, and there's nothing checked. Let's check our camera views and see if by exploding that dormer, no, it looks the same. I was expecting it to look the same. Oh, I lost the interior camera. Let me bring that back. Oops. Let me do it under the flat part of the ceiling. That's better. See, it still looks nice and clean. And that's because when you use the dormer tool, everything comes in perfectly, pre-programmed. But the dormer tool has its limitations, and sometimes you have to do this stuff manually or take an automatic dormer like this and then edit it to fit your purposes. So let's take a look at the anatomy of a dormer. I'm going to move these roof planes off. Probably should mention that that's a roof baseline, this little line right here. That's called the baseline. That's the pitch indicator. And there's the eave edge. But that baseline is very important in terms of where it's placed, 99% of the time. You'll find these things right on the outside edge of the structural framing. That's because engineering-wise, that's where the load bears. All the force coming down from the roof and what's on the roof or what's pounding on the roof or blowing on the roof, whatever, the force comes down right here, and that's why they put the baseline there. There's some specialized conditions, which I'm not going to go into, about where these baselines get placed elsewhere, but I want to just move this stuff out of the way so you can, well, I don't have to move it out of the way, do I? Let's turn it off in layer display options. We'll go over here to roofs, planes, and baseline. Well, I don't have any in there. So if there's no red check mark, 90% of the time there's nothing there. There's the baselines that I was talking about. I don't need any of that right now. It's still there. We just turned it off. Now you can see a little black line there, here and here. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to hit the Tab key until it selects. Now it may be that that object I'm looking for is turned off in plan view. Let's see. It should be roofs, openings. No, there it is. There's something there. Let me see if I can select it. Maybe I should be in CAD tools. Get into CAD tools. Might be easier to select that way. Well, I didn't do this before I started the tutorial. I usually don't have any trouble selecting that thing. Let's see. I don't want to take a lot of time doing this. Should be on roofs openings. Oh, I shot myself in the foot when I turned off roofs. Sorry about that. Let me turn the roof planes back on, and the roof openings will then magically appear. I don't think you can't select something that's not turned on. Maybe it's on the wrong. Oh, maybe it's down. There it is. Sorry. It's down here. This is what I was talking about. That's right. I built this roof system on the first floor. Let me shove this upstairs. I'm just going to move this roof plane so it displays upstairs. We'll move this one as well just to be symmetric about it. Okay. Sorry about that. Now let's take a look at this thing. Let's open this dialog box and see what the software says it is. It says it's a whole roof hole skylight specification. I could change this into a skylight if I wanted to. But of course, I want it for a dormer, so it's not, skylight is not checked. So that's what the purpose of this thing does. And you can draw these things manually, and then let me just draw one. I'm just going to use this polyline tool here and draw a polyline, select it, and down here in the edit toolbar, convert polyline. And one of the things, well, okay, in Chief Architect, I can convert it to a hole in the roof. In Pro, you can. Okay, I didn't know that. But I can convert closed polylines. In other words, two or more lines that are connected into various solid objects if I wanted to. Sorry about that. So the only way in Pro you can get a polyline is by creating a dormer and then exploding the dormer, then you have this line. Now the thing I wanted to point out here is this thing comes up here right to the edge of this wall here because this wall is resting on the roof plane. So in order for the roof to cut the wall at the bottom, the roof, this little bit of wall here has to actually sit on the roof for this to work properly. And that's the reason this hole in the roof is cut around it. And it's cut around this part of the wall and this wall to cut a hole in the roof so that these walls can go. Let me give you a cross-section view of this. See, this wall here starts at the floor and goes up, and then there's the roof plane. Let me do it in another cross-section. Okay, see, these walls need to go up through the roof. This wall, and this wall. From here out, sit on the floor platform inside here, this room. This wall actually sits on the roof. That's why it needs to show in plan view most of the time, and that's why it is. Let's look at it this way. And there's that little bit of wall right there. That's that side of the wall polyline that forms that little bit there that's above the floor, and it's sitting on the roof. Let me go back to another camera view. You can see it's all coming to pieces here. But that wall. Let me remove this roof plane here. Okay. That wall is actually, this part of the wall here is actually just sitting on the roof, and this is going through the roof. So that's the reason in plan view that this whole polyline goes around that little wall bit, and then it connects in here and is collinear with these roof sections, which I've moved out of the way. So let's put this back together now that I've explained all that. Now I can pull this over a little bit, this polyline, to where it's not supposed to be, and let's take a look what that does. See, it creates an aberration there. Let me put it back. We'll go back to that camera view, and it's a bit more cleaned up. Okay, so that should explain some of the stuff I was doing. Now let me put this all back together. Go here to display options. I want roof baselines back on. And I'm going to zoom in. It's always a good idea to zoom in when you're doing things so you can actually see what you're doing precisely. And click on the roof plane and use the point-to-point roof move tool to click on the baseline and then to select it and then click where I want it to go. See, now it's right on. It's a little bit out of place from where it was. I'm going to use the arrow keys, and okay, you can't do that in Pro. You can do it in Chief Architect. Never mind. We'll do the other one. Select the roof plane, point-to-point move tool, left click on what I want to move, left click, and then left click. See that little precursor, that little red hourglass looking thing? That's a precursor, and it lets me know that my cursor is on the edge of something. And see, now that baseline is properly placed. It's a little hanging over here. You can select the things and resize them if you don't want them. Of course, if you don't want them to print, you can just turn them off as a layer. But if you want them to show, but you don't seeing, you can see I'm just carefully resizing that thing without moving it to the left or right. And then we'll select that, join the roofs again. They're probably joined, but and we'll even this stuff up. I'm just going to grab this and let it snap there so that they're even. And I pulled these in my messing around with things. I pulled these out of place. Let me get that roof edge, not that one, this one. And I'm going to use the join roof tool and click down here. I'll probably get an error message saying it can't do what I want, but actually, let me just turn this off. It doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing. You can see it lined it up. This one's out of alignment over here with the hole, and this one's lined up. So select the roof plane, join roofs, left click. See, now they're lined up. You could do that manually and so forth. It's so much easier to use the automatic tools. Now let's take a look at this as we're back where we were. Nice and clean on the inside. So that's some things about display options and the anatomy of a dormer and so forth. There's a lot more that I could go through, but there's only so many hours in a day. I hope this helps you. Thank you very much.